listening to Goof On Radio with Rich Giordano.
My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality.
I believe, as do the other folks that were on the flight, that when we visually saw it, that it was something not from this world.
Goof On Radio.
You were either in or you were either out, brother.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Goof On Radio with Rich Giordano.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Goof On Radio.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
You're listening to Goof On Radio with Rich Giordano.
All right. Welcome to Goof On this evening. I'm your host, Rich Giordano. It is Monday. It's Monday, September 18th, 2023. And it is Monday, right? It's still Monday. Got Michael Rosa on tonight. Just popped in. He's from Dark Hour Paranormal. It's a YouTube channel that channels the inner you. Yeah. And then some. UFOs, conspiracies, Montauk. It's not just one side. Michael does all the sides. He delves into the woo, the things we don't do on Goof On as much as we should, which is why it's very nice to bring him in here this evening for a minute and a half. All right, so we're going to do that, and I welcome everybody. I hope you had a great weekend, as I think I did. Hope you did. I don't remember much of it. Yeah, I know. It went by too quick. Remember when you used to work 9 to 5s all day and all night, and you're like, I can't wait till Friday, and then the next thing you know, you go to sleep, it's Monday morning. What happened this weekend? I don't know. It went by so fast. One thing in UFO news, and then we'll bring Michael on. The title of this very short article says, "It's crazy to me the DOD has completely shut this down." Michael and I will be talking about this as well. The current state of ufology. We don't do roll call on guest nights, so welcome everybody. The article states, "We were making awesome progress. How are we letting a government division based on weaponry and war? That's not easy to say. Weaponry and war control everything about this? One who seems to operate outside of presidential jurisdiction and is ran by unelected officials in the dark. They have clearly moved mountains to keep disclosure from happening. These are the bad guys in every war movie, and they are going to decide the future of the human race and how we interact with alien species in the name of defense from things that could have likely destroyed us at any point in time." Is that the excuse? This is an entire humanity problem and needs an entire humanity solution. It's not time to not accept this anymore. There is no secret they are keeping from us that can help us. What? There's no secret they are keeping from us that can help us. The truth is the future. Bang on table. It's time to find out who is operating on humanity's behalf in the darkness. Bang on. Behind closed doors. Bang on. Outside of elected leadership and bring it to the light. That was just by a Reddit poster. That's the state of ufology. Blame it on somebody else. Don't accept your own irresponsibilities and issues. Don't forget the lies your friends gave us. Don't forget the lies that your friends are perpetuating every single chance they get. Without further ado, as they like to say on every single show in America and abroad, I'm going to bring on Michael Roser from Dark Hour Space Paranormal. Welcome to the show. What do you say there, Mike?
Well, I say quite a bit, and I'm being pretty well. Thanks for having me on, Rich. It was nice to see that opening again with the Goof on radio stream. Obviously is now sort of a relic in respect to that language, but that's one hell of an opening. I've always enjoyed that.
We do it every night, Mike.
Yep, but you like to have a little variety, yeah? No?
Not lately, Mike. It's been the same one for 2 months.
Okay,
but that's okay. I'm pulling your leg. Every now and then I'll cut it short. And, sometimes I might play the outro as the intro. And everybody's like, oh, shit, I missed the show. But wait, it's only a minute old.
Well, Either way, thank you for having me on. I know I've had issues with the internet. I mean, you can't have Dark Hour Paranormal without it being synonymous with internet problems. But today we seem to be doing all right. So once again, thanks for having me aboard, my friend.
If all right could be great, it's all right. It's just not great. I still hear the snapping and the popping, just not as loud as I usually do. But I doubt they can hear it. And you look fantastic. And that's all that really matters when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I can't dress up to the nines like you. I mean, God, I didn't intentionally color coordinate here, but
I mean, I found the hat. I have been looking for this hat for ages, and it just so happened to pop up. How, I have no idea. And I put it on. I said, hey, it looks good with this shirt. So we left it on. So a lot of people are wondering, thanks, what is this about? Well, that's me and Michael today. And then, behind us is us. Well, me when I was 6.5-ish. And Michael, I think, when he was 30.
13.
94. 13, I mean.
How old do you think I am? Hold on. Wait, you said I look good, though, so it doesn't matter, right?
You looked good. You looked like a nice, respectable kid. Now I don't know. What the fuck happened? You got old man. You see, it's not your
boy.
fault because you still look very young for 50. But, the facial hair for men can do two things. It can make us look old or it can make us look mature. It doesn't make us look any younger. Never heard anybody say, you look so much younger with the beard. I've never heard that before.
Well, when you're right, you're right. As long as we wear it well, it doesn't really seem to make too much of a difference, right?
Are you all right?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Are you?
I'll say exactly what I heard that I heard you say.
Well, I'm just practicing. You know what I mean? With it, rests can be musical even with.
You cut out. Now you're frozen. I was joking. Look at what the joke did. See, I create reality like that. All I did was think it, say it, and there it is. Michael got frozen. He's been trying to get this internet worked on all year. And it's a shame. It really is. He may have to come back on without the video. So it's not popping back in, I was trying to say. Well, while we're waiting for him to work that out, there he disconnected. I'd like to thank Diane Boss, the boss of Goof On. Yes, you've been a member for a while. Thank you very much. I'm glad you renewed and worked all that out. Diane, the boss of Goof On. Jeanette Angel, everybody. Jeanette throwing down a £5, £5 super sticker. It's pure love here at Goof On. It's pure dynamic love here at Goof On. Hold on a second. And I have to do this. It's a miracle. I saw it before it was too late. David Wilcox throwing down, well, we'll round it up. I think it's £15, 15 quid. Yeah, exactly. What isn't it for? Very good on PayPal. That's right. You can help support the show. Super chat, super sticker, PayPal, Cash App. All the links are in the show description. I didn't take a breath before I did that, and I got a little winded halfway through. But that's how you help us out. It's because it makes you feel good. And you're supporting Truthology for ufology. And that's that. Jeanette Angel throwing it down with vigor. Michael's back. I see him over there. We'll bring him back in a sec. Red Panda Koala. Sorry, Mike. I didn't know when you were going to be back, and all these super chats popped in. $2 super sticker. Thank you very much. Wave your hands. I see you there. He's in the waiting room. Oh, no, what are you crying for? Now he's crying. Unbelievable. Now you're going to sit there longer. Hey, shed another tear. It's another minute. Nah, I'm kidding. We'll bring you right back in here as soon as we're done. Red Panda Koala, thank you for the $2 super sticker. Mucho gusto generoso, my friend, so. And Paula Faust, the $2 super dono. A dono is a donation with no sticker, no comment. It's pure love, unadulterated joy, right here at Goof On. Thank you for the super chat, super stickers, PayPals, and or Cash Apps. All the links are in the show. Thanks, Paula. Thank you, everybody. And yes, you can become a member. Oh, the members video. Don't worry about it. You'll get it. Don't worry. Where is he? Mike! Here he is. There he is. Oh, yes. Are you kidding me? This is a joke, right? You're joking me. I hear you, Mike.
Look, Mike. If I'll go to my phone if I have to. I'm not going to put your show under this type of duress. You know what I mean? So if that falls out again the way it just did, I'm going to call you back on the other. I'll just use the phone to do this rather.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
All
okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You sound good now.
Okay, I spoke too soon, apparently.
Yeah, I did too. Put the double helix on that connection there. But anyway, we were talking about the phenomenal you, and he's frozen. Nah, I can hear him. I hear you, Mike.
Okay.
He's gonna have.
I'll see you in a minute.
All right. How's he gonna call in? I don't understand. I don't understand. All right, let's get. While he's doing that, I don't understand. Oh, he's gonna go on. That's right. He's gonna use his phone. All right. You know, it's that time. I don't want to forget. I almost did. Hold on, here it comes.
Terrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. Left the Department of Defense, ironically enough, to finish the very mission they gave me in the first place. I didn't ask for it. I'm not a UFO guy. I'm not a ufologist. I never have been. I never will be. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO.
It's your daily dose of boo-hoo-loo, telling you the truth when nobody expected it. Michael's back. Let's see how this works. It looks like I see a half a head. I don't know what the hell's going on. Hey!
Hey, well, we're going to do it this way.
Hey, man, that works for me. I appreciate it. It looks good, too.
I don't apologize. I wish things were working out. Hey, look, I mean, for those of you who have been following what I've done, you'll see that I haven't posted a show for about a month now. Long story short, I invested in another internet provider. This was worse than the one I had already, but it took me 2.5 weeks to figure it out through the process from beginning to end. So we're going to go a different route this week, but in the meantime, this is what I'm working with, and don't worry, I'll be back. Jesus.
Nobody's worrying, Mike. We just miss you, that's all.
I appreciate it, Rich.
Yeah, but I know that was not real. That was like an insult and a compliment at the same time.
Yeah, well, I do. I know you well enough.
So I remembered what we were saying. I mean, this is a rarity. A memory came back to me that I forgot. I was talking about this, and that's me and Mike, you know, at 50, and me at 49, Mike at 55. And that was us. And then this is us when, you know, when we were kids. And the point is, you change so much, right? But who are you really? Who are we? What made us from 1974 to 2023, from 1994 to 2023? And I know that picture is not a 2023 picture, maybe 2022 or even a 21, but you look exactly the same from the day I met you, except for your, never mind. I don't want to go there. I don't want to, you have big thighs. Your thighs are big.
Hey, well, I skateboarded and snowboarded for a very long time. You're going to get those. I mean, let's look at your calves real quick. I bet they're pretty. Come here. Let me see.
Hey, I'm injured right now. That's not fair. So who are we? And I know this isn't really the essence of what you do, but it is in a way, because you, in my opinion, I think you delve into the woo thing that I don't, because I have a hard time believing in it. However, I've had so many weird things happen to me that I can't deny it anymore. And I've been that way since 2019, you know, that I made the change. It's just saying it out loud, still weird. But why, Mike, I guess I would have to ask you this. It's all personal. Every experiencer, every person out there has their own experiences. But what makes us a tuning fork? How do we get to the place where maybe you're at, or somebody else can actually channel or talk to beings? I mean, is there a procedure? Is it a process? Is it a learning curve? Do I need to go to a guru like you and learn? Or how does this start, and how do we get to where you're at?
Good question. Certainly taking in everything you just said, I pulled myself out of the picture just a little bit because, when we talk about clairvoyance, we talk about psychic activity and these sort of things. In many different ways, it's been expressed that anybody can do this, and we all have the ability. I imagine, as a whole, this is something akin to a practice or some sort of discipline, and maybe some of us have cultivated that in another experience somehow, way, shape, or form. It's transmuted over into the experience that we're having now as the personality that we know. I mean, there's a very large differentiation when you talk about who you are as an essence versus what your ego identifies with. And I think in many ways we've actually quantified that on psychological levels, and even in certain ways scientific measurement, we've kind of traversed that arena a little bit. But your question is a very age-old question. Who are we really? Still understanding that we have a distinct notion that this isn't the entire essence of who we are. And yet, I can meet you, you can meet me. We'll talk to the nines. I'm 5'6", you're 5'9", whatever it is. We see those characteristics. And again, we identify with those immediately and say, this is all we are. Well, I mean, philosophers and, other people who have really delved deep into the thought of this reality and our existence here have certainly come up with different ideas based on those meditations. Now, for myself personally, I mean, you bring up, being somewhat of a skeptic when it comes to, the world of paranormal or esoterics, whatever it is. I mean, you've had your experiences and we've shared this in many different ways. I still think it's interesting that you're as skeptical as you are, yet I respect that given the analysis and critical thinking that you sit on. For myself, I also sit in that domain, but I've had so many experiences, especially, in my younger years, that I just simply can't explain today. And they remain solid and firm in my mind with the acknowledgement that we're not just this finite being. One very, very quick example, and it deals with premonition. I think this is, for me, one of the strongest points, is there was an experience I had when I was 16 or 17 years old. Went up on a ski trip going up towards, I think it was Okemo in Vermont. And, with the high school and everything, I had a couple friends that were with us, but we had a whole bus of kids. And this kid that I was sitting next to was more of an acquaintance than he was a friend. But nonetheless, we knew each other well enough. And we're driving up there, and from Connecticut, it's, 3-hour drive, whatever it is. I just get this really overwhelming feeling that somebody's going to get hurt. I've had these, notions before, maybe not to that extent, but it was so loud in my chest that I just said, you know what? I turned to my friend and said, hey, Tim, listen, I don't know what this means, but just remember that I said it, okay? He goes, what's that? I said, well, somebody's going to get hurt today. He goes, what do you mean? I was like, I have no idea. Just remember I said it again. So sure enough, we went up there, got into it, and my third run down, I hit a mogul that just spun me broadside, and I flipped over, and I ended up smashing my collarbone, clavicle, arm was basically falling off of my body. Went through the procedure that day, had to go to the hospital, of course, x-rays, all these kind of things. Yeah, it was incredible. I hadn't seen Tim since we got off the bus, though. I was kind of walking with another group of kids. And sure enough, at the end of that day, it was very long, as you can imagine, I got back on the bus, which they were holding, for I think about a half an hour coming from the hospital, which was an hour away from the resort. I finally got there. I sat back down and I looked at him. The first thing I said to him was like, Tim, do you remember what I said earlier? He goes, what'd you say? I said, somebody's going to get hurt. And he goes, oh my God, you're right. I said, I just didn't know it was going to be me. But again, that gives me an idea that there's something much bigger that we're a part of, or that we are, in essence, our true essence, right?
But you had this feeling, and it didn't help you anyway, right? Yeah. And that's what bothers me, right? That's what bothers me. It's like, okay, you're going to give me these signals and these signs, but I can't really do anything with them because it's so infrequent and so out of character for everything else that's going on in my reality. You expect me to figure that out? I mean, what kind of ghosts, aliens / spirits are we talking with here? It's not fair. But what I want to know is, you seem to be in tune more than most people. I'll be honest with you. I thought I was until my last psychic show. But one part of my question was, are we all, you were saying we all probably have the ability to do it, but I remember being 5, 6 years old experiencing very strange stuff. And I didn't talk to anybody about it because I knew at that age that people would make fun of me or say I'm imagining it. But kids start this shit, Mike, the imaginary friend, right? You have a couple of kids. Did they have the imaginary friend? And when they did, if they did you see any spirits, anything interesting going on, record anything? And then does it usually start around this age?
It's a very good question. My children, my kids, they, from my recollection, they didn't really talk about any imaginary friends. I mean, I remember my cousin, both of them growing up, they were younger than I was, talking about the bunny that, climbs up the drapes and the bunny's always around and this thing. He had this bunny imaginary friend and the other cousin had some other type of animal. Yeah, my kids didn't really experience that from what I understand. But, within that age, you are still very vulnerable to everything. Okay. When you're coming into that body, just because, they whip you out of your mother, slap you on the bottom and you cry, doesn't mean that you're all fully integrated as an energy into that body. In fact, that body being so young can't take all that energy. It has to grow a little bit for this to anchor in. It's my belief, based on not only experiences, but certain research, that the majority of what we really are, or what we came to be, whatever you want to call it, ends by filling us by the time we reach adolescence. So around 11, 12 years of age, this is when you start going into that chemical process within the body. But at the same time, you start asking the larger questions and you start seeing yourself more ensconced within the totality of the world. So, you're asking questions about world hunger. You're asking questions about war. So, yeah, again, to kind of look at your question with a discerning eye, I'd have to say that, it has to do with us being partly in the spirit world still, having these imaginary friends, and partly we're just kind of integrating into the physical.
Wow. See, now I thought you were going to go another way with that and tell me what I've heard my whole life is that our brains are still a sponge. And, and it's very clean slate and very open and susceptible to any energies that come near or towards it, and that might be true, man. That's the thing. It's like a brand new computer just entered our universe, and then that's the signal for the spirits to come on over and say, ooh, I like this one. I'm going to be its guardian angel. No, I'm going to be its guardian angel. And it feels like there's a fight going on. Who's going to be our guardian angel? And by the time we're 14, hit puberty, that's when they enter. That's when they come in at full steam ahead. And that's when we get the gift at puberty, Mike. I think that's when it all opens. I think they're trying to get in early. We just can't. We don't understand it. They're shaking us.
Well, you have to keep in mind, too, that once you reach adolescence, something very magical actually happens. And that is the discovery of sexual energy, which is the core creative energy that is the universe. So as children, it's there for us, but we're not manifesting it, in a physical sense. We haven't grounded it in a physical sense. So when we get to that age where now that sexual energy is a light, you'll find that a lot of kids blossom in terms of creativity around that time, and going into their early teens and so forth. You're connecting with that larger part of the universe, if you will, during that stage.
You said also earlier that when we come into this world, we're not able to handle I guess handle this world and that world at the same time? Or what do you mean by that?
Well, to go in a little more detail, when we're babies, the mind itself, the brain, okay, let's say, can only take in a certain amount of information before it's overloaded or, stresses to a certain degree. And that's based on the idea that it, whatever that brain's interpreting can actually be within the practice of comprehension. as we are children, we're pretty streamlined and focused on, what we're paying attention to and so forth. We don't necessarily have the capacity to take in the totality of our energy and who we really are, because it's still kind of trickling in as we physically grow older. I think that's actually making space for the consciousness and growing the electric field and the auric field and whatever you want to say. And this is directly attributed to the ability to hold that type of consciousness.
Yeesh. Man, they got an answer for everything, don't they? Right?
No, that's not to say that there aren't some kids out there that, fall under the indigo umbrella that, in some way, shape, or form are so hyper intelligent, hypersensitive, super psychic, resistant to diseases, don't exist, because they do. We just look at those kids, and even though there's a multitude of them now, we look at them still as an anomaly because it's not the normal course of how we understand that type of thing to work. But sure enough, there it is.
There's a multitude of them?
Oh, God, yes.
Say where? I mean, say what?
Yeah, look into Russia, look into China, look into the majority of Europe. They have been following these kids since the 70s and early 80s and researching alongside with them, finding that they have different codons of light within their DNA that we don't, which makes them, again, resistance to certain deadly diseases like HIV. They were, pumping these kids with these type of diseases many years ago to test what the empirical result would be. And sure enough, their bodies were able to ward it off. And again, that's just one small facet of what these children are capable of. Now, within the time period, I'm sure many of these kids have grown up and, begun to live some sort of normalcy and way of life, but maybe not, because we haven't really kept tabs on it, at least in the public eye. I mean, I was reading all sorts of articles and research documents back in the 90s that involved these type of children. And they said that it had to do with whatever ray they came in on, which, again, seems to be a little bit more nebulous than anything. I mean, it's not a very tangible explanation. What do you mean, what ray? It's a light ray. They're the blue kids, or the indigo, or, came in on this ray. So each one of these purported groups of kids actually exhibited different traits, compared to the next group. And some of them were stronger in areas and some of them were weaker in areas. And there's just a level out between the two, but nonetheless, there are differences.
What a perfect segue. And I asked this to you about a week or two ago when I was going to have you on. Then I got sick, but we had to reschedule.
Mm-hmm.
Montauk.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of children,
yeah,
those. You're working on a project that has to do with that. Still been going on for a while. Now, can you tell me where you are? I know, but tell the audience where you are and what stages you are now into this year and a half, maybe 2-year-old research thing you've been working on?
2 years, just over, actually. The initial idea, because I released the first Montauk documentary, and largely this was sort of based on my experiences and some research. And, we got out on to Camp Hero with Peter Moon, the author of the Montauk Project books. That was a very special type of interaction. And yet I wasn't grounded in everything that I wanted to explore with that. So my idea for the second documentary was to kind of focus on the healing that we have available to us in respect to those type of projects, specifically that one because of the time and the work that's already been done around it. Now, this was sort of a lofty vision because I knew that I was going to need certain key players to speak within this narration, and it's not easy to talk to people who have been part of these projects or suffered certain trauma. A lot of them end up being very flaky. They're initially excited to be a part of this, then we start talking about it, and when it comes time for them to film and give testimony, they disappear. Sometimes I find them again and I question them about it. They're, oh, I'm so sorry, I had something happen, and they give an excuse, but they again disappear. I went through probably 5 or 6 different people that all agreed to be a part of this because they had their experiences in Montauk, and none of them panned out. No matter what I did, how I tried to follow up with them, whatever direction I'd give to them, make this easy just so we could have some insight on what they went into, it didn't happen.
Do you think did you get any hints that they were visited by somebody who said don't talk to you or anything like that, or not really?
one person specifically said that they were visited by their handler, which was not a planned meeting, and they were told not to go forward with me on this subject. But that was only one out of the 5 or 6. And, even though that happened, I mean, I don't know how true that is. I mean, how many of these people really know who their handlers are? And if they do, are they working with them with that knowledge of the relationship and the dynamic? I mean, to me, that's just, handler is manipulative. Really? I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to at the end of the day. So why would you accept that as, somebody you'd have coffee with or something,
Yeah, it's like being married. Yeah. 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 Some people. But go ahead. Yeah. Because you have some plans maybe next year. I don't know how much you could say, but can you?
Well, the fact that I was able to spend a week out in Montauk this year, which is a little bit more than I've spent in the past couple years, and talk to survivors who were open to having this conversation. Some of them wanted to stay in the realm of anonymity, which is fine. I understand that. They have, families and friends and kids to protect. That's fine. But I got the testimony and, certainly found that project within the folks that I worked with this time past. James Rink is one of them from Super Soldier Talk. You have Alondra Markman, who's very much a Montauk Project survivor. As a child, he remembers almost everything. Actually worked with Preston Nichols, Al Balick, Duncan Cameron. These guys have fond memories of Duncan Cameron, which I find interesting because, out of the 3 whistleblowers, he was supposedly the most gentle because maybe that was his nature, and the psychic ability that he displayed allow him to have some sort of empathy, whereas Al Balick and Preston Nichols were much more austere and respected personalities. Nichols being up at the top there, being the facilitator to some of that programming, which, if you guys are familiar with the story, it's not something I can repeat here and how he was doing this, but nonetheless, we know that's how he was doing it. And he was deprogramming people later on in life using similar methods, which are certainly questionable at best, although I do understand the pseudoscience, I'll put it that way, behind what he was doing in respect to sexual energy. But again, kind of just to, not get off track here with your question, within sitting down with these people, I wanted to focus on their experiences, but I also wanted to focus again on the healing aspects. I mean, that's not something that we generally talk about when we look at the Montauk Project. It's just downhill. I mean, the worst horrific things you can imagine being done, not only to human beings, but children. It really, really puts things in a different perspective and sets that project as a jump off or a pilot project apart from anything that came after it. Although those techniques were certainly utilized, but perfected at a certain point. So we're at the end of the 40-year cycle. And without going into super detail about that at the moment, it's something that the biorhythms of the earth will produce, and we can measure this. And, the Montauk Project used a lot of the astrology and cosmic events, aligning with certain ways to, pull in and take out energy. And of course, the biorhythms were no different, but the project actually collapsed on the biorhythm, the 40-year biorhythm of the Philadelphia experiment, which happened in 1943. Montauk Project was done in 1983. And here we are in 2023, again, on that 40-year biorhythm. But each time we go forward with this, a door closes in respect to the information and what had happened there. And we're left only with those memories, and it's up to us to heal those. And again, my time in Montauk this past summer was nothing but healing. And it was great because I had the B-roll and everything that I needed from the year before, but I was sitting on that saying, what the hell am I going to do with this if I don't have the testimony? Well, we have it now.
Now, as far as that Montauk Project goes, are there any children that have come out of this that have gotten, the children of the Montauk children? Are there any of those running around that are psychic or very well known?
Not to my knowledge, and that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't. It's just a lot of these people are very guarded, and they're not going to expose a lot within their family. Even though I get close to these folks, and some of them I would definitely call friends at this point, there's certain information that we just haven't shared between each other, and perhaps time will open that up a little bit. But I think anybody who the problem is this, Rich. Okay, if you're involved in that experiment, okay, you're looking at the 70s. Okay, let's just put a marker on that. You had to be alive and maybe 10, 11, 12 years old in the 70s.
Yeah, there
Today,
I am.
Today, that makes you much older, but a lot of the people that I have interviewed and talked to are younger. James Rink is only a year older than I am. I'm 42. And somehow he was in Montauk in 1991, 1992, the way that Preston Nichols had confirmed. So
yeah, makes sense.
I guess so. I mean, if we talk about the time travel element of things, and we talk about possibilities in respect to age regression and pushing that forward as well. I mean, it's hard for somebody to understand when you've only looked into the original project and don't realize that this stuff went on well after the fact. It still goes on today. I've been told. Brookhaven National Labs, which is in Long Island, about 2 hours away from Camp Hero, took it, as soon as the project collapsed. So it's hard to, again, wrap your head around the non-linearity of this project and know that you're sitting in front of somebody who says, I might look like I'm 38 or I'm 45, but in essence, I'm a completely different age. I'm actually in a different body, right? I know you guys have your thoughts on Captain Randy Kramer, but he's also put this forward as a possibility of what he's experienced, being age regressed or being transported from one body to another, cloning obviously at the helm of that effort. I don't know. It gets really wild, but if I didn't have my own connections with it, it would be more difficult to connect with. Look at Christopher Garantano. He put together great stuff, but he has no real connection to this. He's just an outsider observing. And therefore, there's a lot of emotion that's lost in his presentations.
That's interesting. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Doesn't it? I mean, it does. But I don't know, man. Look, Montauk started when? In the 70s?
Montauk is divided into 3 different projects known as Phoenix 1, 2, and 3. Phoenix 1 arguably started in the late 50s, early 60s. It was, part of the MK Ultra bandwagon, if you will. Once they realized that they figured out mind control using frequencies, went to Congress and said, hey, we can do this. Congress said, nope, shut it down. It's a threat to us as well. And that's when things went underground, quite literally, in respect to that project. So, yeah. You go into the 50s, 60s, Phoenix 1, 60s into the 70s, midways, Phoenix 2, and then 74 and onward, that all part of Phoenix 3.
It's almost as if that was like a starting point for using outside sources, contractors, not government, and do things on the out. I mean, that's kind of when it started, I think, right around that late 50s, maybe. They had to. Nobody was doing FOIA requests back then, but it's just the fact that public information is just that, and they don't want it to be found. So where are we now with the Montauk people? Like, are they contributing anything positive other than doing, making movies and whatnot? Are they doing anything for society? Are we learning anything from them?
I think one of the biggest takeaways we can work with when it comes to the Montauk survivors today is that, veracity is underplayed when it comes to the human spirit. And, there's a resilience within people that no matter what you go through, you can still be standing and, not stay damaged from the experience if you decide to undertake the spiritual work. Even James talks about this quite a bit. I'm not going to mention exactly in regards to what. You'll see that in the film. But long story short, you can get to a certain point to raise your vibration through, many different means. Some of them needed to be worked with in tandem with each other. That, gives you that solid basis of the spiritual work and, facing that trauma and emptying yourself out the way anybody would, given they had a regular traumatic experience. And some psychologist was, guiding them through that. But again, to kind of, really bang on your question here, these people are still bringing awareness that this type of thing has happened. So when we had congressional hearings over MK Ultra, there were so many people who had no idea that that was a reality. And once they saw that in an official manner, I mean, sort of what we're seeing in the world of ufology today with, the official presentations, it grew a lot more length and leg if you will. So people became more aware of it and knew that there was a nefarious end to certain factions of whatever government or military organizations that we have at bay. They are using this type of technology or these techniques. You know, you talk about remote viewing and so forth. We still have people who work with the CIA, I'm sorry, not the CIA, the FBI, to locate bodies of victims of violence. And they do it with the utmost clarity. And these are real cases. I'm very good friends with one. And she's actually over on Spaced Out Radio. So long story
Sylvia
short.
Brown?
Is she even still alive? I don't think she is anymore.
She died like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
She channels. I channel her every now and then. I do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, I'd like to talk to you about that, Rich.
You may talk to her eventually. So Spaced Out Radio, you were saying, what was that?
Jessica Jones, the cryptid huntress. She works with the FBI on this in this manner, but not saying that she was part of any particular project that was, you know, black this way. I mean, the fact that, okay, what was it? I read it a long time ago. I can't remember where I saw it. It said within the folds of the experimentation and so forth, it said point blankly, says it doesn't matter if you believe in psychic activity or not. The U.S. government does, and they practice it. So what are we missing as we sit back in our limited belief systems and say, oh, that's not possible. We none of that's real. And yet here's your government, your elected officials using that exact technique to do X, Y, and Z. So I don't know how we're so far behind with this knowledge. But again, just to revisit your question, what they're doing is bringing that awareness. They're living icons of healing, showing that it can be done no matter what you've gone through. As long as you have still breath to breathe, you can heal yourself, and then you can impart that healing on others who've gone through something similar, if not the same thing.
It just never gets old. It never ends.
For some reason, it doesn't. I think it's because people keep coming out of the woodwork and saying, oh, yeah, this also happened over here. Or you had, you know, this faction of the experiment being expounded on over here, and I was part of this, and I'm being taken. I've got needle marks. All this stuff still happens, and it's not attributed to extraterrestrial abduction. It's attributed to my labs.
You just made some memories come back for me. Talk about Montauk. Whoosh. Giordano. Yeah. Goofonock. Forget about it. You know what are dreams? And I'll tell you what dreams are. Reality.
Yeah, tell me what dreams are.
Dreams are reality. Okay. I think dreams are reality. I'll tell you, I had a dream. I meant to tell you about it. It was last Friday. See, every time I got a dream, there he goes. It's got to leave. No, I'm joking. Go ahead. I know. Go ahead. I'm joking. So I had this really strange dream where I'm walking through the house, and each mirror that I looked into, my beard got longer and I got older. And then when I got to my kitchen mirror, I have this big mirror. It's in behind where dishes go and all this shit. I saw me like 20 years in the future, I think. And I didn't like it. I was angry. I looked like a mean, angry old man.
So 20 years in the future means you don't die at 69. All right.
Well, it looked like 20 years. You know, with the health, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, look what happened to me now. I gained 8 years in 5 months. It's over for me. I've hit the wall. But that dream was so real, man. And I'm like, you know, when I woke up from that, I was actually a little taken aback because I didn't know where I was. It was one of those mid-afternoon things where I dozed off for like 15 minutes and this vision popped into my head. It's very bizarre. I have those a lot. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you one more, and then I'll let you tell me what's wrong with me. You know, you want to meet somebody, but you probably never will, right? Maybe they live in another country or another planet, so they say. You know, to have a sexual dream be as realistic and as graphic as the one that I had, it was romantic, it was beautiful. But my God, I know what this person feels like, I think. I know exactly what this person, that to me trips me out, man. When you have these dreams about people in your audience, which is very rare, Yeah. And then the next thing you know, you're making love with them. And not only that, it was in the middle of the street during a rainstorm.
That's curious.
And it was at
Well,
night. Yeah, it was like, let's just do it and get it over with. And then we did it and we wanted it. And then I woke up going, I go.
That's one way to stay warm, right?
Well,
and you still end up wet at the end of the experience either way. So,
but the thing is, Mike, they're so real. I wouldn't have been able to tell. Well, I knew it was a dream. Like I've had dreams that I've woken up and I thought were real. And I'm like, but I've never had it where you wake up and you're still dreaming. You know, like they do that. And that shit never happens to me. I don't know anybody else it's ever happened to. But are dreams reality, you think?
I do. I think they may even be more real than this reality. It's just not the way we're sort of designed to interpret it. It's supposed to be more of a peripheral thing for us. Perhaps that is to get us to kind of stay present in the moment, rather than, holy shit, in the dream world, everything is possible and let's do that instead. Certainly, you talk about the Great Pyramid and you talk about the King's Chamber and you talk about the white substance, which might have been some sort of monatomic gold, or it was a silica derivative, whatever it was. I mean, this was found when they opened the King's Chamber, and essentially they had mentioned this came from the initiate who was in there to meditate as his final test, if you will. And this, would secrete out of the top of the forehead somehow. It came from the pineal gland. I don't know the science behind it, but it's out there if you want to look it up. Yeah. Long story short, they would go out of body very far. The idea was they would garner as much truth about the universe and life and whatever that they could, bring that back into their body, and they emerge somewhat enlightened with that information. But the issue was that, and this is the test part of it, once you're out there, a lot of people don't want to come back. They describe it being very heavy coming in. I mean, we talk about, near-death experiences having something similar in way of that experience, saying, I returned to my body, all of a sudden everything was so heavy and I was bogged down. So dreams, again, maybe that's another gateway out of this particular reality, and we just want to be able to step in and then step back into our reality. So that's how we're sort of designed to interpret dreams or brush them off as something more Jesus Christ, of the imagination. But you bring up a really interesting experience. I had something similar when I was a teenager. Now, I mean, chalk it up to adolescence, okay, if you will. But the dream that I had, there was somebody definitely there, and it didn't look, like the scene you would picture in your head, beautiful young woman, whatever. It was more energetic, but there was definitely form. But I woke up from that dream, like kind of looking for that person, because they were as real as you and I talking right now. And the tactile sensation of that experience, it stayed with me to this day. And I've never had an experience like that quite as powerful. But I don't know what is it about sexual energy that we really connect to if it's not the core essence of who we are.
It's if you go by what a lot of people think, it's all about love. Mm-hmm. Really, love. I mean, love and sex can go together, of course. Mm-hmm. I think they do. But that's supposed to be the strongest emotion of all of them, which I don't think it is. I think jealousy is the biggest one. No, I don't know. But that's the dirtiest one, that's for sure. Well, they all suck. Yeah, they all suck, all the bad ones, right? But I've come to the realization, maybe when we're sleeping, we are gathering other data that's floating around in the universe. Like maybe somebody else's fell asleep and we gathered their thoughts and it went into our brain and drifted out. So that's why sometimes we're flying when we shouldn't be, because they're a pilot and they were dreaming about flying and we just picked up on their energy. I don't know if that's possible, if anybody's ever tried anything like that to try to transfer dream energy.
Well, you kind of are starting to stray into an area that sort of comes about naturally, and that is the idea that we might be able to actually join into somebody's dream.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
I mean, has happened more often than not in certain respects. And I've talked to people who were disciplined in this art form, because that's what it was. It wasn't just something they woke up one day and said, oh, I can do this. They cultivated themselves somehow through meditation and lucidity within their dream states to be able to do that. And sure enough, they'll come into somebody else's dream. They'll have an experience, and that person whose dream they came into will wake up with the same experience and dream that this other person has. And it's not like they're talking about it before they, go to sleep and get together in that way. It's just the byproduct of that endeavor, which to me is pretty freaking mystical. However you cut it.
It is, if that's real. I'd never heard of that actually being a thing. I've only seen it in movies, where they try that stuff.
I think there have been some trials with this, lightly behind the veil, if you will, that did prove that this is not only possible, but it's probably easier than we think. God, it's been some years since I researched that end of things, but I do remember coming across those articles.
I'm going to write down a color, red or black, and I want you to imagine what it is. What am I writing down?
Black.
Yep. All right. That's pretty good. You're psychic, see? You had a 1 in 2 chance. Right? But still, you got it right, man. That's 1 in 2. That's amazing. We'll continue with more tests. When we listen to
that, when you listen to that quick intuition, you don't let the mind get involved. What's your initial thought? I think more often than not, you'll be accurate with it, but it's a matter of being able to hear that.
It's what you did. I know what you did. You saw how long it took me to write that out, and you assume that it's not 3 letters he's writing. It's got to be 5 because he wrote kind of long. See, that's how you pick up on. You subconsciously you did it.
Screen's really small. I can't really see too much. But you know what? That's not a bad idea. Certainly not a bad idea.
Again with the small. Why is that? I've been hearing that since the hospital. Well, we'll keep doing more psychic tests with you as time moves on. I've got a few more up my sleeve.
Okay.
You'll be leaving here with a tough one before we get out of here. Yeah. Oh boy.
I might have to give you one as well. I mean, we've always done so well with these, so.
I don't know. Maybe. You know what?
You guys know. You guys have seen this on the show. Rich is an absolute ace when it comes to this stuff, and he won't admit it.
Except when I fail. But when I'm good, I'm really on. I get them right when I'm right.
Yeah, nobody says it's 100%.
No. But I want to talk about apparitions and ghosts. Do you know what it actually is saying?
What, Jason?
When it's that yeah, do you know what there's a video that tells you what it is, and I think it says kill, her. Something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I was doing it for 6 months. Everybody said, stop it. All right. But I like ghost videos a lot. I really do. And I believe in some of these things that people are seeing. I don't know, man. Do you think that there really is a way to get to this realm when you're dead? Or is it something else?
I think it's more choice. I think these particular entities or souls or whatever you want to call them do stick around within a certain frequency. Maybe not always by choice. Maybe there's an emotion or something that holds them back that they would have to deal with, right? Look internally in a sense to let go of, a certain experience and able to move on. The same way that we have, you say you get hung up on an ex-girlfriend. Well, in order to move forward and meet somebody else and have that sincerity and genuine experience, you're going to have to, heal that part of yourself that you went through with that other person. I think it's similar. Why would the human experience stop just because we don't have a body? In essence, what we understand to be a human being, we have that. We embody it. So within our energy, it should be recorded there. And I mean, outside of the ego kind of dissolving, I still think that, the energy is locked into certain magnetic fields within the earth and within this particular universe, which allows us to have the experiences and record those experiences here within that energy. Shit, there was something else I was going to say too.
I don't know about all that. Huh?
It'll come back to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Second test. I have an arrow pointing at one of the 3 colors I've written down: red, black, or blue. What color is the arrow pointing to?
Well, I'll tell you what I initially saw before you even read the colors. Blue.
So what is it pointing to then?
Blue. I guess that's wrong.
You're 100% wrong. Black.
Black. Here we go.
And that's okay, Mike. That's okay. That time you couldn't see me because I did it way before. See? I know your secrets. You are a magician, right? Aren't you like a practiced magician?
Yes, which actually should lend a little more credence, because I'll be the first one to call somebody out when I recognize something from the trade.
Yeah, I know. But I want to play a video for you.
Please.
I want you to tell me.
Rick, before you do, can I just mention something really quickly?
Yeah.
In respect to the paranormal and ghosts and so forth, there was a production put together by a team called A Ghost. Okay. It was an acronym for something called the Naked Experiments. And essentially what these people did was go into an old prison. They'd get naked, slap a bunch of electrodes on their bodies, and they were measuring when these entities were coming near and touching them. So they were having the experience in tandem with, the electrodes, catching this and measuring it. So if you guys have a chance, go and check out that documentary. It's called The Naked Experiments by A Ghost. Very, very compelling movie.
Naked and Afraid, is it? Nah.
No.
That is a TV show called Naked and Afraid. It's what, The Naked Experience?
The Naked Experiment.
Experiment. Oh, where is that? Is it experiment?
Like spearmint gum?
But the proper pronunciation, or is it enunciation, to that word experiment is experiment, I thought. I
honestly don't know. If it is, I'm learning something new tonight.
Well, you should ask somebody that you know.
Okay, I can certainly do that. I know exactly who to ask.
yeah, their name's the same backwards as it is forwards. And upside down, it's wow.
That's right. You're 100%, buddy.
All right. There we go. Here we go. Check this out. I just want to see, and if you think this is real or fake, if I could ever get this the way I wanted it. See, that's weird. All right, there you are. Giddy up.
Many have done this game, and Francesca.
So what do you think it is? No, I'm just kidding. All right, go ahead. So they're doing this game, like they go Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, and then something happens. So they just did that, and now we're at that part. Go.
Francesca is just one of them. Throughout the video, all actually seems to be going relatively well. However, that all changes in the blink of an eye. As Francesca makes her way through a long corridor, she notices something heart-stopping that causes her to freeze up. Take a look.
Ascolta, dobbiamo andare a vedere che cazzo erano quei rumori. Vai tu. Non vieni con me? Io sarei qua. Ascolta, vai un attimo di sopra. Vabbè. Dai. Qua non c'è niente. Che cazzo è? Vai via, Fra!
A creepy figure can be seen moving down the hallway, which
this isn't
frightens
it.
the uploader, causing her to end the recording right then
I think
and
it's
there.
embedded in this one.
The next morning,
I thought
and
it
saw
was.
what
I just wanted you to see what they recorded and what you might think it is. This isn't it.
by taking a look at the figure.
Oh, we could do this one too. See, do you know, I mean, that looks like somebody with a cane. I don't know. Not everything's fake, Mike.
No, that's true.
You know? And some of these I just believe in. I do. I believe some of these. Like, I don't know. Why would they show up like that?
One video published to his channel.
There's one I want you to see, though. But these people continually see. I'll bring you back in. They continually see black figures. There's like no shape to it. I mean, there's a shape, but there's no detail. Are those always demons, or what are we looking at when we see those?
No, I think that's just the way that spirit appears to us within the limited bands of light that we can see. Putting on different spectrums or even picking it up at times that we don't see it. From my understanding, and again, this is purely subjective in a lot of ways, these entities, they could be very well be human. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're from some other dimension. It's just in order to hold a certain physical vibration, for some reason, it's difficult to do for many people. That's why they're here for a flittering moment, or we catch audio, which is less tangible than a physical entity and standing in front of us, and why the holy grail of ghost hunting is to see one of those full entities with your own eyes. It happens so very rarely. I mean, I've had experiences where I've seen that with my physical eye to the point where the energy went through me and knocked me off my feet. Somebody caught me and pulled me back up. Was not an experience I was expecting to find. In addition to that, I had a case back in 2000, it was last year actually. Somebody had come to me and said that, a woman had captured on the baby monitor some entity reaching into her child's crib at night, and it looked as if it was a woman, maybe an elderly woman.
Yes, I've seen that one.
You remember this? Yeah, I definitely.
The arm of the woman. Yeah.
Yeah, and the curious thing was, she was so perplexed by this, her sister went into the room and had to move all the furniture from where this entity was standing to try and make some sort of mimic on it, and she wasn't really able to do that. You could clearly see it was a solid physical being with her in the room, and yet you could kind of see translucence in certain parts of this entity that was captured. So yeah, we went through the whole information gamut with that, and we couldn't figure out exactly who it might have been. The thing that really kind of perplexes me, and I haven't had a lot of experience with, but people like Elisa Medhus will tell you this is definitely a reality, is that people sometimes, even before they pass, can show up in various show up in various places, perhaps on a quantum level, and be projecting some sort of energy that you can actually see that shell. Now, again, this is to me more theoretical than it is practical, but I've come across it many times. So the idea was presented within that case that maybe it was a grandmother who was still living. God, I don't know if that portends that, part of her is already out of the body and maybe the rest of her is going to go soon enough. But there is certainly the element of question within that. But yeah, I mean, seeing the video here, it's not hard to falsify something like that, but if you're going to do it, why not make it look more spectacular? Why make it look like a rolling bit of mist, or all of a sudden you see a part of an arm, and then once you see that, you see the head, and the arm disappears, and then you see the leg, and it just continues like that.
It's real. That's why. I believe those are the real ones, and I'm going to show you this. I found the videos I wanted to show you. I was right. It's embedded in the video. I'm glad I wrote a note on it. All right. So everything you said makes sense, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. That's the frustrating thing. Like when we're monitoring or recording these things, it'll never happen again, like the same way, So rare.
Unless it does, which I've actually talked to paranormal groups that have captured that.
Oh, yeah. Very rare. Very rare. All right, watch this and tell me if you were this person investigating this place, maybe I'll ask you, what would you do differently? If anything at all. Go ahead, guys, play. 33, that's interesting. Oh, that's even more interesting. No sound.
Exploring the scary location in question, and around the 10-minute mark, they get their first signal that they may not be as alone in there as they initially thought they were.
That could be faked. Could be. Not saying it is.
Could be.
You know, you got to make it open and close, so.
Things seemingly slow down for a few minutes, but they pick right back up again, as evidenced by this horrifying moment at around the 13-minute mark. Take a look and see for yourself.
This video. That's so funny looking to me. I mean, doesn't it? Yeah, doesn't it seem like something his friend would do? You know, like pull a string on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never seen any paranormal activity even close to this. Have you?
Not like this.
Right? So don't you think it's got to be fake?
Well, let me see a little bit more here.
You'll see a lot more.
Is he supposed to be floating?
No. Fresh scratches.
Oh.
They just appeared there.
Okay.
I think he got pushed.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I don't hear any reaction from him. Normally people are kind of freaked. Like, yo, you're looking at that? And you're not having any reaction?
Videos like this one, there's truly no shortage of horrifying moments that are sure to make the hair on the back of your neck stand.
You know, I understand why he didn't scream. I'm not a screamer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say anything if I'm scared like that. I clam up too until well, I don't go. I mean, that I'll pass out. No, nobody breathes like that when they're scared. Nobody. You know, I'm telling you, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I've never breathed like that when I was scared.
But you know that the drawer coming out like this, like it was such violent movement. It reminds me of Evil Dead 2.
Of course it does. It's supposed to. It's fake.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about
Watch this. Watch this one. And then we'll talk more about this. So this guy takes a picture of him and his girl in their new place, and you just saw the creature that was behind them. It's so bizarre, bro. And nobody was there. And the thing is, we keep seeing more and more of these types of videos. I think they're easy to make. I think they're easy to make, but I also think they could also be real. And the ones that are real, I believe that I've seen some real ones, and I don't know if this is real or fake. It seems real. But if it's real, Mike, what are we doing, man? What's happening that we're seeing all these? I know there's 8 billion cameras around the world, but what phase are we in? What's happening? Why are we seeing these like this?
I don't think it's any different than what we've seen in the past. I think people are just more aware of the phenomenon, and you know, when they pick up on something like that in a video, they pay more attention. Whereas in the past, it was easily glossed over and, you know, put to the side, and you know, it became Grandpa's one weird photo that he had showed the family at one point. Where's the negative? Oh, we can't find anything today. But there's the memory of, you know, that one weird incident. With the advent of ghost hunting shows and stuff on television, the way that we've covered this stuff on YouTube and other platforms, it's a very large area of interest today. And more people are, you know, certainly focused on this than ever before within our immediate history. as far as I can tell. And I'm not talking about the 1800s where they had an inkling of certain things, but it was really for entertainment what they were doing. Today, again, we're seeing these things because I think there's a part of us collectively that wants to. I've been told in many different ways that the paranormal is simply science we just don't understand yet. And that's all it is. Like it's not para anything. It's absolutely normal. We just don't have a system of measurement. So I very much believe that to be the case.
If you were that kid in the video I showed, what would you have done differently, if anything?
The moment I got pushed, I'd be up against a wall real quick, make sure it didn't really happen again. That'd be my first thought. But I would just be in there documenting it the same way that he did. If indeed this was real, then he did a great job capturing that type of activity with the dresser kind of moving like this. And of course the drawers that we've seen, other items within the home kind of moving about on their own. I'd love to talk to this guy and see what his take was on that night, because again, if this isn't hoax in any way, shape, or form, it's absolutely compelling.
Now, I've seen videos that show how people fake stuff, open and close doors, turn on and off the lights. It's all done with strings and little weights and pulleys, and then they edit it out, right? Now, this is on a different level, though. Now the videos are people running through dilapidated buildings, right? They're going through these buildings that are in shambles, these homes that are super haunted, and they're having these types of experiences. Now, to catch it all on camera while you're running and shit's flying at you, like, to not be seen as a fraud, like to not see a hand come into view or somebody's foot under a blanket by accident. Like, I haven't seen any of that yet. And here we are, we got people going through homes that have this type of activity, and yet we're calling them fake because it looks fake.
Again, without talking to these people that were there and really kind of getting the 411 on who they are, where they've been, and what that night meant to them, we are only left with certain supposition. God, I've said it so many times, but it still rings true, and it's really fucking unfortunate that this is the case. But would we know the real evidence if it was standing in front of us, whacking us in the face? Today, because of the saturation of information that's out there and the charlatans that have come up and hoaxed all kinds of great things, people don't necessarily have the discerning mind, unless you understand how this could be done, to look for it even. They'll say, oh, this is really compelling, this is really neat. I can't think of myself how it's done. And yet a lot of people up until, I don't know, I'd say 5 years ago, had no idea what a green screen did, or a blue screen for that matter. And sure enough, we have creators all over the place using this type of technology now.
Oh, yeah. All the time. This one is really creepy, bro. This one is, but it could be done, it could be faked. See, but I don't know why. I don't know. I can't even show it because I think it's all fake. Some of this stuff is just, it's annoying, but I like it because it makes me think about the stuff that I've seen. Like, okay, for instance, how come for a while, Mike, I'm talking for years, I would hear my own name being whispered to me? I'll be in the gym working out, have headphones on, like a little smaller than this, and I'm doing tricep push downs. I remember it because I remember a girlfriend of mine was walking up and she said walks away. I see her and her beautiful ass walk away.
I remember these things.
And then out of nowhere, I hear, Rich. Or I was walking my dog and we're about a mile from home and I hear, hey, Rich, come on, bro. Like, really? Seriously? And it's always been like when I'm wearing a headset, though. I don't hear it. I don't think in my normal hearing. It's always when I have electronics on my head.
That could certainly be what you think it is. Or if we want to go out, left field somewhere, we could say it's something more dialed in way of a human effort. But I've experienced that too, just not at the frequency that you have.
It's happened about 6 times in my life.
Okay. Yeah, it's only happened to me once. But holy shit, is it unmistakable when it does happen?
Oh yeah, it scares me because it's like somebody's right in my ear going, "Hey, Rich," like it's like they're like right there.
That's right.
It hasn't happened since I would say about 2007. It hasn't happened.
That second entity that I caught from the Douglas graveyard that I've spoken about so many times, the Watcher spirit. When she was with me, that first night that I realized she was there, that was like the defining straw that broke the camel's back, having that experience. So, laying in bed, I'm feeling it, tremor underneath me. I'm watching the shadow figure going back and forth in front of the VCR light. And I'm watching little sparks of light like pop and, kind of congeal together. And as I was watching this, I'm just turning over, trying to, get some peace here. I, feel this thing pulling one hair at a time on my head, not pulling it out, but pulling it taut that I'm feeling it. That's why I laid on my back and I closed my eyes and I started trying to, surround myself with white light and whatever I was doing back then. And sure enough, clear as day, you could hear it right next to my right ear, Michael. And I said, oh, nope, that's it. Nope. I sat up. I went up and I sat in the living room for, a number of hours and really didn't sleep that night. But I couldn't after that experience because once I heard it, every hair on my body stood straight up. And I knew what I had heard. But it had been my first experience with that.
That's see, yeah. So, oh my God. Yep. And so what it sticks with you, and I've had it done half a dozen times that I can remember. And mine started a long time ago, and I was coming home late in the morning hours. It was 1:14 a.m. I was supposed to be home early, stayed out late. I see this at the front window. Looks like my mother is looking out the stained glass window that's only 5 inches across, right? So she's doing this. And I go, oh, Jesus, I got to walk into this now. So I open up the door and nothing. And I hear snoring. So I walk by the folks' bedroom and I go, Ma? What? We're sleeping. Come on. I go, I thought I heard you say hello. Very strange. And I saw her. Yeah, my mother said then, many years later, I told my mother about that story and she goes, that was my mother. And I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of did. Because she said she saw her there. She saw her because she lived with us when in her final years. And then we had to put her in a home because she was so bad with Parkinson's and dementia. We couldn't care for her like that. But she probably visited. But I forgot where I was going to go with that. But the thing is, shit happens. It's really happening in this world. And I don't know if they're trying to reach into us or we're tapping into them, or it's like you said at the very beginning of the show, it's just normal. This is just the normal living everyday life on Earth. Why are we so scared of? Why are people scared? Because pop culture.
Certainly. I mean, you watch a movie like Paranormal Activity, that's probably as close outside of Poltergeist, the original one, that kind of documents what it looks like to go through that type of activity on a violent sense. It's so close to reality, but then it blurs the lines for people.
Big time. Especially the first one.
Oh, yeah. I'm still floored at the special effects at that. I mean, again, they had to have the vision to produce and create something so comprehensive that, the viewer is believing that this is, being toyed with whatever objects by some unseen force. And we're not seeing the strings and the pulleys, and they're not moving up and down in a very linear sense. I mean, things are moving in different ways that seem less contrived and more perhaps the product of whatever they're pitching within that Poltergeist movie. But, that's what, from what I've seen, that's what objects do when you have a presence of something like that. Curiously enough, that guy that was running around that you showed me, moments ago, didn't seem to have any sort of technical issues with his camera, audio, lighting, nothing like that. So I find that interesting that a presence that strong able to influence third dimensional reality at such a rate wouldn't have some sort of electric connection as well, wherein the guy would experience some sort of falling out with that technology. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to happen,
Right.
but so many times it is present.
Yeah, and a lot of times it isn't. That's for damn sure. It's true though. That's what sucks about it. There's no consistency. 100% consistency with the research done in the paranormal, the ufological world, and all that shit. You know, I got a video here I wanted to show you. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's known as one of the most, if not the most realistic UFO ever captured on video.
Well, let's see it.
Look at that thing. I know, it's beautiful.
Even more if you don't already.
Right? I mean, and then the other ones around. Oh, never mind. Here we go.
Named Carlos Franco, which shows him setting up his camera equipment in the middle of the night, ready to get a good shot of something up in the sky above him. What is it? Well, let's.
This is original. This is good stuff. He's recording his camera, what he's seeing in the sky.
That's pretty good.
But you can see it. It all the background moves with it. It's the real deal. It's really up there.
It'd be very difficult to falsify too, the way he's doing it.
But doesn't this object look familiar to you? I mean, it looks like a Cylon ship from Battlestar Galactica. Not perfect,
amazingly.
No, it is though. You're right.
The third phase of Moon had a video of a UFO that was going by SpaceX or the space station. And it looked like this. See, that's the thing with evidence. You don't throw it away. You don't delete it or dismiss it. You put it aside for a rainy day when you need it to compare. And now we have that. I'll have to pull up that video, but this is...
The object seen in Carlos' camera has established...
I don't know. It's been one of the most controversial things ever. But it's supposedly real.
In the comment section of this video,
it looks like ours,
completely convinced of this video.
Look at that light. Look at that light on the bottom. Tell me that doesn't look like the TR3B light that's on the
believe that it could also be
yeah.
a drone, but no one has a definitive answer. It is definitely one of the more realistic looking videos relating to UFOs that you can find on the internet, which is why it has been gaining so much attention on the internet as of recently.
It's old.
What do you think? Is this legitimate footage of UFOs floating around in our world? If so, what do you think they want with us?
Have you been keeping up with ufology?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure, because I think we should talk real quick about what's going on. So now NASA officially threw their hat in. Big deal. So what? But the same week, the day before NASA did their little thing, or 2 days before, we had the Mexico children come out and do their little UFO hearing with the fake aliens. So knowing what we know about those aliens, that they are fake, why do you think they would go through with subjecting us to that kind of bullshit?
You know, coming from a different country altogether, I'm more surprised at the lack of transparency. I don't know, because Mexico has always been a little bit more at the forefront, I think, of this type of truth, rather than doing their best to not just cover it up, but in this case, make something contrived. Jaime Maussan either does one of two things. He helps ufology or he doesn't. And, there are many times that he makes assertions that are either already known to be false, or they very soon become that knowledge. And so it's really difficult to kind of look at some of these key players in that particular area and say, okay, everybody knows what they're talking about there. We're of sound mind. Apparently those mummies were identified and studied over by someone within the Air Force, up at the top echelons, if you will. And this guy came back and said, oh yeah, it's real, and here's the reasons why, and you see the x-rays. And unless we're standing there by our lonesome and you're pulling apart this thing and whatever the case may be, there's not much you can do to convince me that what we're looking at is the real deal. Because if it were, why weren't we seeing it earlier? And why are we seeing it now in such a capacity that any other country couldn't write it off if they were absolutely biological in origin, those mummies? It doesn't seem to make sense. And again, I mean, you asked a great question. Why would they go through the effort to do something like this if it's false? You know, I don't know. Is there something else that they're hiding in plain view that we're not supposed to see? I mean, we're still getting a lot of attention when you bring up, oh, we got alien mummies, and everybody kind of looks that direction. Great, I get that. But at the same time, why go through that effort? We didn't have any alien mummies over here when we had our congressional hearings. So, you know, what's going on here? I wish I had an answer for that one. I just don't.
I do.
Hit me. I got to plug in my phone. Go ahead.
The reason, and I mentioned this the other day, why they were allowed to show us aliens is because they're not real. Or that they are exactly what the aliens look like, but we saw a mock-up, a makeup, or, you know, a artwork of what the aliens actually look like, right? Maybe that's why they were able to show us. You know what? It goes back to what I said. Jaime Maussan is the Jeremy Corbell of Mexico.
There we go. Yep.
100%. So they allow him to put these things out there, lie to the public because it's not the real evidence, so they can show it to us. However, it is a replica of what the evidence looks like. So when Jeremy shows us flares at 29 Palms, that's really what the UFO looked like, but they can't show us the UFO because top secret. Same with the aliens. Oh, they look so stupid and fake because they are. Well, the real aliens look pretty freaking awesome. And that's a pretty good mock-up of what they should look like. But we can't show them to you because what if some madman decides to jump into the room and grab one? You know, what if a bunch of people rush and try to steal pieces of the alien? We can't bring that shit to the public. You guys will freaking rob us blind. That's what they're afraid of. And I'm telling you, the public is crazy. They wouldn't be able to accept alien disclosure, full disclosure, even technology disclosure. Anything that advanced is just too weird. But anyway, like that's what I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but like anything that we introduce, you know what I mean? If they trickle it in slowly, like we've, you know, thought they were doing many times, you know, the public is malleable. One of our greatest qualities as human beings is being adaptable. And I think eventually it would, look, if we found some sort of crazy sea creature at the bottom of the ocean, I think people would readily accept that, you know, this is something we've never seen before. When you talk about alien life, I think we're getting closer to the point where we can actually have this conversation because we're already having conversations about the broadcasts and the hearings around the dinner table. It's these are household, you know, themes now, subjects, and it's becoming commonplace. I mean, how many people have I talked to in the public, you know, working in a restaurant where, you know, we get to the topic of esoteric somehow, people ask, you know, what I do. And as soon as they know that I'm, you know, into ufology, they're like, oh, well, did you hear about this incident? Or do you know about this one? And it's all the stuff that's right on the popular mainstream media. And of course, we can have a conversation about this, but that's what's on people's minds. And most of them are in awe. They're like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, but it's happening. And it's kind of cool. Even the older generations where you think they'd have more of a staunch opposition to that type of progress, they seem to be accepting it quite readily. So maybe we are ready for some sort of disclosure that way. And it's, you know, how it's going to come about is a completely different story altogether. But I have faith in people that we could make that leap.
I don't, because with mainstream media doing this, I'm going to play this clip until you hear what I need you to hear. We are in trouble if this is how they're going to treat ufology.
Congressman who sits on the House Oversight Committee, Tim Burchett, joins me now. So, Tim, do you know that the government has this crazy alien stuff and is keeping it from us?
I don't know about that Vegas deal, but the whistleblower, I know him. You know, he's a decorated veteran. I know in Washington D.C. that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, but in East Tennessee, that means a whole lot. Those are the Tic Tac videos you're seeing there right now. Those are videos that were taken by American military. That's their gunners.
He says those are the Tic Tac videos. They're not Tic Tac videos, you schmohawk.
They're gunner photography, and they're actually trying to follow those things, and those are some of the best pilots in the world.
And they followed them with success, you schmuckhole.
Either they're lying or somebody else is lying. And so I tend to go with our military men and women. I've been briefed on things, some things I can speak about and some things I can't. But
me too.
But that's probably a meteorite that you're seeing in Las Vegas.
And did you see that in the beginning, that the aliens can turn us into charcoal? This is
Dude, where the hell does that come from, right?
From the news.
Yeah, I know, but what's that line of questioning? I mean, we're talking about a UFO, and down the bottom you have, can aliens turn us into charcoal? I mean,
let me see what we missed. What did we miss? Let's go back.
Tennessee Congressman who sits on the House Oversight Committee, Tim Burchett, joins me now. So, Tim, do you know that the government has this crazy aliens?
But wait, Mike, but later on, I thought they actually talked about that. Let me see. They did. I thought they talked about the charcoal, but I guess. Oh yeah, here they bring it up again. Okay, so I was right. Let's go back and see what they say.
You know, we have military
I'm
personnel
wrong.
that are decorated veterans telling us they've seen these things, and you know, we just need to get to the bottom of it. I've added an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to declassify all things about UFOs and UAPs, because if they don't exist, then why are they hiding them? And if they do exist, why don't we know about it?
Tell me a little bit about how you know that the UFOs fly underwater.
Wait, there's that charcoal comment.
We have military personnel. Chinese had it. They'd own us. I mean, in all seriousness. So you're left with one other conclusion. These things are coming from somewhere else, and this has been covered up since 1947 or sooner. And you know, we have military personnel that are.
I don't know what to tell you, Mike, but I can't find it now.
But I mean, I like Tim Burchett.
Sure.
He talks well, you know, and I think that there's things that he can talk about and things he can't, and there are things that he knows and things he doesn't.
Sure. Tim Burchett only cares about one thing. Tim Burchett. God, I love him and I hate him. But they didn't talk about it. They do talk about turning us into charcoal. I just think that they were making fun about if the aliens use their laser weapons. We've got our laser pistol. You know that guy?
Yeah, dude. Mars Attacks.
No, that's the cartoon.
Which
from
maybe
Bugs Bunny. From Bugs Bunny. Oh, it's before your time.
Okay,
that's
right.
why.
Well, I know who you're talking about.
Marvin the Martian.
That's right.
He's actually in the chat room.
Oh, hi, Marvin. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
He's gone now, Mike. You missed him.
Well, he's quit. You know, he's got that ship. It's only built for one, person in there. He's gone.
So we like Burchett, and I know you love Greer, and I love this woman in the middle. So this is Greer and Burchett sandwiching a blonde on Fox. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. It's Newsmax. Alleged alien corpses shown to Mexico's Congress. That's what I meant to say. Now, maybe get your... No, I haven't watched this yet, so this is interesting. I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Okay.
Go, Mike. Say something. No, go ahead.
Congressman Tim Burchett with us today, and founder of the Disclosure Project and Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and American UFOologist, Dr. Stephen Greer. Welcome.
It's ufologist, not UFOologist. That's
UFOologist. Throw another syllable.
Unidentified flying, the study of. That's what she's saying when she says it. Unidentified flying, the study of. It's ufology, not ufology. Got it? Good.
welcome into you both. Congressman, we've followed your hearings and some important work there that Americans want to know. Dr. Stephen Greer, it's always been fascinating to see what you are putting out. And this story, you know, it's pretty wild in Mexico. I know that you have studied UFOs, extraterrestrial intelligence, Dr. Greer, for decades. So you have this person testifying under oath to Mexico's Congress.
I mean, I'm baked.
Some say it's not real. He's not telling the truth, but he says this is legit. Is this a stunt? What do you make of his discovery of these corpses?
Well, we first learned of this about 7 years ago, and honestly, I have not been able to get a copy of the report on the genetics, which is the only thing that's going to matter is the genetic analysis. But I would like to remind everyone, we don't have to go to a 1,000-year-old corpse. I have people in the Disclosure Project who have directly handled extraterrestrial material, including craft and bodies, that are in the archive we have, which we have provided to members of Congress and also to the White House and the Pentagon and the Aero Office. So it's we're still a little mystified as to why those top secret witnesses have not yet appeared before a panel or a subpoena, as opposed to some of the secondhand witnesses that have appeared. So
that's a great question.
Far as this, yeah, it is an important question because we have over something like 7 terabytes of data that we have already provided to the U.S. government. We're wondering when they will get around to investigating all of it.
Congressman Burchett, do you have any answers to that? I know you've been working hard. You did some, congressional testimony with the whistleblowers just a short time ago. Where's all this evidence that Dr. Greer says, and can you make it public for us?
Well, the truth is that the U.S. government doesn't want to disclose this. NASA, in this lengthy report that said very little, in the first paragraph, basically they asked for more money, and that's what's driving all this. They don't want to find an answer to it. They know the answer. All I want is them to release their files, and I agree with Dr. Greer. I think this stuff needs to be made public, and it should be. I have an agreement from Speaker.
Hey, Mike. Why should it be made? Why should it be made public?
Well, we also know the answer to that. I mean, what right do they have to keep it secret, and for what reason?
Well, that's the $1 million question. According to them, it's dangerous, whatever that means.
Yeah, but they're playing that parental figure, and I don't think anybody really agreed to that. It's just the dynamic. I mean, we put these leaders and these people in the House and the cabinets, and obviously there's something to be said about that, who we decide to do that with. But we're grown people here, okay? Grown men and women and everything in between. We can handle the truth about whatever they're trying to hide. I mean, Christ, everybody dies eventually. Why not just, kind of come out and be transparent about what life really is and what life has to offer? There's a control mechanism behind all of this. And maybe, like Greer is saying, it goes right back to the money. It may, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But I do believe we have an absolute right to know what's going on within our immediate world and whatever worlds interact with us outside of that, and not to be hoodwinked by, any of these elected officials or factions that we have trusted to keep us safe, but are doing their own thing with their own self-interest in mind right in front of us. I'd say it's behind our backs, but it's right in front of us.
I don't know, man. Imagine this happening in 1947 with Roswell. Let's just say that's a real alien ship or ships that crashed. Mm-hmm. And they've never had an experience like this at all, alien bodies and everything. My God, if that got into the hands of the Chinese or the Japanese or anybody else, that could have dire consequences, not only for us, but the world and or the aliens themselves. And that's what we thought at the time, right? So that's why they kept it a secret, because why, Mike? It's such a big story. Back then, how do you explain it to everybody at the same time? You couldn't. So there would be certain factions of people that would hear about it, and then rumors would spread all over. That's why there would be chaos. You can do it now, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have the dissemination of information in a completely different way today. back in the 40s and the 50s, it was easier to keep something under wraps, and you could just, surround the perimeter of whatever's going on and literally push people away. Nope, there's nothing to see here, right? We see that with the cop on South Park all the time, but there's something to that. They just said, you see that we're doing something, but we don't want you to know what it is, so piss off, and they were able to tell people to do that. These people weren't able to go home, look up an article or get satellite imaging or do anything else that we would do in way of research, contact people who were in the area, whatever the case may be. That was not the journalistic avenue that people generally took back then, unless you were in the field to do so. And even then, you could be singled out and be told to be quiet. And Marsup and some of these other people that we know all about have had that experience, unfortunately. But today, listen, you can't keep the lid on a boiling pot, and that's what ufology is. It's a freaking boiling pot, and eventually it's going to boil over, and you're going to have a mess. Now, who gets burned? Mostly the public. We'll certainly turn our attention to those who've been keeping these secrets from us, but they'll all have that, excuse of, well, it's militarization and we're protecting you. Listen, here's the point, though, Rich. If projects like Montauk really did happen, everybody was already involved. There was a sister project in Russia going on the exact same time with a very similar chair that Duncan Cameron was using to manifest objects into physical reality from thought. Okay, there were other countries already doing this. Apparently, India, according to Dr. David Anderson, back in 2011, had expressed that they have the most advanced time travel research on the planet. So it's not like these other governments and countries aren't in tandem with that information with who knows what. The whole art of war, the theater, that's exactly what it is. This is all a huge theater. They all know behind the scenes what it is. It's, again, coming back to control.
Yeah, and money.
Yep. And they put the fear of God into us, or at least use fear as a motivator to say, well, this is why we're not expressing certain things, when there really is no inherent danger at all.
What if there are no aliens? There never were. And the government just used it as a way to get the funding they needed for their black budget programs. You got to create the threat of the unknown. But in that same breath, you can't say that with all the people seeing all these weird things and all these weird things that are happening to people. And what about the abductions? My God, the abductions. How do we do? You can't dismiss all of this stuff. It's too damn much. Not everybody is lying.
I couldn't agree more with you.
I know what I've experienced. You know what you've experienced. They out there, Goofonyville, they know what they've experienced. It's all the individual. So I think we do live in some sort of matrix reality, but each one of us has our own reality that we live in our head, and nobody else can get there except for the mainframe. Now, what do you think about living? What if we're living in a matrix, man? Why is that? That's not crazy.
No, it'd make more scientific sense than a lot of other theories out there, oddly enough. Especially when you talk about dreams, as you brought up earlier. I mean, how that we might be dipping outside of the matrix a little bit, or going into a different set of matrices that aren't accessible through your waking states, because you have limitations imposed possibly by you for a certain purpose, not to be overwhelmed or overstimulated by everything and all that is. Maybe you just want a single experience. That's why when you sit down and read a book, many of us will turn off the radio or turn off the television or shut the window from the outside traffic so we can sit and read the book. But we can still experience all those things by turning on the radio, turning on the TV, opening the window, if we choose to do it that way. Maybe this reality is very similar in that sense. I mean, apparently we're locked here by some sort of 0 point, which brings us to a certain time reference that we can all agree on. And that might not have to do with the linear time that you and I are familiar with. It might have something to do with more of a biological affect or dynamic. So, I agree, Rich, that there is definitely something to that. The way things seem to work out does seem to have some sort of mechanism behind it. And people have talked about it. I won't won't say too much on this because I just don't know. But Preston Nichols had mentioned at one point that they had discovered some sort of huge computer in the center of the universe, if that the way he put it. I don't know if that's locationally actually where it is, but he said there's a supercomputer out there that is kind of governing over this reality. You know, he didn't say a lot about it, but it was mentioned, and Duncan Cameron had said the same thing. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
I was just going to say something too, and I can't remember. It was pretty good. Damn it. It was kind of in the same vein of what you were saying.
Who's 55 again?
What was that? I didn't hear you.
I said, who's 55 again?
Not me.
Oh, don't tell me that's not, you don't remember how you opened the show.
How do we open the show today? Didn't we do it
Go back and watch the replay.
We did it this Oh, I know what I was going to say. I had if we are living in a matrix, a computer, I would have to find it to be like the biggest joke ever, because you know that picture that Voyager took of the Earth and they call it the blue dot or pale blue dot? It's a picture of the Earth very far away, and you just see us in what looks like the light or the shadow of a ring from Saturn or Neptune, whatever. And have you ever seen it? We're so small, and then it keeps going out and out, and then you see the solar system, and the next thing you know, you can't see us at all behind all the fog and clouds and all that other bullshit, and the rays of the sun. I felt so insignificantly small watching that and knowing that we're so tiny in the grand scheme of things, with trillions and trillions of stars in billions of galaxies that harbor trillions. Oh my God, Mike. And now they think we're 26.5 billion years old. It just never ends. How could we be that special? How? We can't be that special. What are we doing? We're just a little tiny, insignificant nothing in a world of everything, and yet we create such space and such imagination. Our minds just go into places that we can't even imagine.
Well,
I mean, yeah, it's bigger than that. It's just like you said in the beginning of the show. The reality is the strangest thing of all.
And to me, you know, having the ability to dream or go out of body in one way, shape, or form is that outward expression or exploration of that which is way too big for us to traverse physically. So we have access to that immensity, but it's through a different means that's probably more plugged into this matrix or whatever you want to call it.
Look, seeing that picture again, I just saw it again recently, and that's why I'm talking about it. It really does something to my psyche. I feel that we really are insignificant. We're a grain of sand in the ocean of darkness. It's exactly what we are. And who the hell would want to visit such an angry, hostile species like us and call it home, share this planet with us, wipe us out? We are disgusting, crude. We harbor all these virus, bacteria, and bugs and shit all over our body for a lifelong ride of just festering off our insides and our skin cells. What kind of living creature are we? Gosh dang it, Mike. What are we doing? Where's my lightning bolt? See, it doesn't happen. It never happens. Seriously, there's got to be more. And I don't believe there is. I don't believe there's any more once we die. I think that's it. When I went under for that operation, that procedure, and they knocked me out, I didn't dream. I woke up 15, 20 minutes later, not knowing what happened. They could have done anything. That's death. And that's what I remember before birth. Nothing. Is that where we're really heading, Mike?
unfortunately, for the sake of conversation, disagree with you on it.
No, not for the sake of the conversation, for the sake of humanity.
Considering energy is neither created nor destroyed, that consciousness that is you, whatever it is, goes somewhere. Where it goes, I don't know.
It disperses so far out, it's insignificant. It doesn't grasp on and go, everybody, we're over here. And then they conglomerate together and become one mind again.
Well, how do you know that?
I know everything. I'm just testing you and you other little peons that you call human.
Well, look, anything's possible, but given scientific models that we have, it's more probable that there is life in the universe than there isn't, and it's more probable that there is a life after death in some form than there isn't.
God, would it be such a waste of space if it was just nothing there?
If you want to even call it space, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to make everything that far away. Everything is really far away from one another, right?
I just don't think that the physical has limitations, and we've already probably built into the architecture somewhere within our own subconscious or conscious minds how we can explore some of these things, such as remote viewing or whatever, if we're kind of programmed into that practice, and that affords us the freedom of travel in that sense. I don't know. Maybe it's just inherent that things are this far away from each other, and that's what we've had to deal with as a challenge. I'm not sure.
When you say inherent, I know what it means, but what do you mean in reference to what we're talking about?
Intrinsically, this is the way the universe always was, and this is the architecture, and yet we're here, and we're as big as we are, but the universe is already laid out. So tough nuggies that, Earth is X amount of miles from the moon, but you can still see it. You can, we can get there physically, but there was certainly a time people didn't believe they could, and yet you have all these men of knowledge, if you will, that had trips remote viewing wise or out of body that would view some of these celestial planets and then bring that information back within the tribes that they were a part of, or the culture even. So,
and we didn't even talk about reincarnation. I think we talked about that last time, though.
I think we did.
Yeah, we did. But
Mike,
next time.
Yep, go ahead.
If there is a next time, we could delve into that. I did a lot more talking than I should have tonight. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was going to talk that much either.
No, I loved it. It's what makes a good conversation. But next time, which there will be one, we should go over this one.
The Smoky God?
The Smoky God.
There's no E on it, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is written back in 1908, I think it was. So maybe they had different wording by Willis George Emerson. You guys probably know this story. Rich and I talked about it a little bit, but we'll certainly get into that next time around. I think there's more to it than the fantasy that people purport it to be.
I'll have to put the link to your channel in the show description. I forget every time. Thanks for coming on, man. I mean, before I let you go, Mike, I just want to thank Jeanette for throwing down a PayPal surprise. So I want to say thank you for that. And a continuing supporter of GoofOn. Thank you, Jeanette. And also Bernie Muro throwing it down. I see right there a $5 super dono. It's a beautiful day in GoofOn when a dono appears in your chat room. Dono, it's a donation with no emoji and no comment. It's just pure love, and you can't put a price on that. $5 super chat. Super dono. Thanks, Bernie. Continuing supporter of GoofOn. Mike, you are at Dark Hour Paranormal. You still doing anything with the Cousins brothers?
Yes, we're still working on certain things.
Oh, good. Okay.
Some are larger projects with a little bit of longevity behind them, and other things might be more immediate. But yes, definitely still working with those guys. Still working with Dr. J Radio Live. We want to do some things moving forward. I actually have to call. I have to call him after the show here. And of course, Jared Murphy is still going forward along with Jim Goodall and myself with the Belize stuff. So maybe we can get into that next time. I have a lot to mention on those subjects.
Belize.
But thank you for having me on, Rich.
Belize.
Belize.
It was great having you on again. And Michael from Dark Hour Paranormal right here on YouTube. Mike, as always, a pleasure. I wish we could just record our phone conversations and just make it the show. Sometimes those are better than these.
Quite literally. I mean, that's we dive so deep into those private conversations. I wish we could do the same. But it's always a pleasure coming on, Rich. I always have a great time, and thank you and all of the audience out there. Thank you for being with us tonight. And I didn't get a chance to look at the chat, so I'll have to go back. But I appreciate what everybody shared. I'm sure you've given lots to that. You guys always do.
All right. I'll take your word for it. No, it's a pleasure. It always is, Mike. And we'll see you next time. And I'm going to let you go and say goodbye to everybody. Do the routine. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Sounds good. Ciao.
Appreciate you coming on. Ciao. Man, it went by so fast and I talked too much. Man, I can't apologize for who I am. I just, some nights I just don't know when to shut off. But Mike's a good sport. He understands. It was really good. I thought we had some good conversation there. And we'll do it again if Mike wants to. Might never do it again. I know I wouldn't do it again. All right, we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, right here on YouTube. Shadow ban experts in goofology. We do it here every night, even when we have a guest on. We do Truthology for ufology. For you. We'll be right back on target tomorrow with some UFO and paranormal news, videos, and vidiots. I'm your host, Rich Giordano. Have a great Monday night, and be good to each other. Alien bless.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.